From an early age, I was constantly gravitating towards the alternative, the left field. I was hanging with the artsy kids. I was hanging with the unpopular kids. But I thought that they had a unique perspective on, adolescence, a unique perspective on education, on art, on the future, where we all wanted to go. And so that gave me, I think, that created my comfort zone. When I first went solo, it was very hard to shed that image of me being the guy in Deep Dish and having created like Flashdance and Dreams with Stevie Nicks. A lot of people within the techno community weren't really sure about where I was coming from and why I wanted to go into that scene. I had to prove myself all over again. It's almost like, having achieved a great deal of success, I had to hit the reset button and prove myself again to everybody out there and also, to myself. The fact that I spend most of my time on airplanes or in cars or in nightclubs or hotel rooms or in studios, always boxed in, makes me really always try to search, nature. When I don't have it, when I go too long without it, I don't feel as settled. So wherever I go in the world, I try to seek as much nature as possible and get lost in the nature. But it's well documented that I have a soft spot for Japan and Japanese culture and Japanese history, Japanese sake. So I think the one place in the world where I really just get lost is Japan, from the north to the south and everywhere in between. I'd always been gravitating towards the alternative, what wasn't popular, the underground. Sake represents what isn't popular. And as I started to want to learn more about it and try to stimulate myself and try to gain more and more knowledge about how sake came to be, how it's made, the different varieties of sake, it opened up a whole new world for me that I hadn't seen before. And that's really when I saw the beauty of sake. I saw that it's a very misunderstood drink and it isn't popular for a variety of reasons. People like me and Richie Houghton and others in our industry, we're doing whatever we can to try to give it, the exposure that we feel it deserves. In some ways, like me being a foodie and how people perceive me as a foodie is often misunderstood. A lot of people see my posts on Instagram and places and they assume that I kind of like fine dining or really gastronomic restaurants, where all I'm really searching for is to connect with the chef, to connect with those dishes. Every good chef, regardless of their technique, and at the end of the day, what they present on the plate, their dish has to speak to you. It has to reflect the personality of that chef. It has to trigger emotions. And I think I'm really drawn to cuisine as an emotion trigger, in the same way that music is an emotion trigger. The approach that a lot of chefs have towards, what they eventually create, the dishes that they create, is not that far off from, for instance, how I produce music or how anybody produces music. We have the technology at our disposal, just like the chefs have their technology. Their technique reflects their individuality in the same way that our technique in the studio reflects ours. A chef who uses ingredients is no different than a producer who prefers particular kinds of loops or particular grooves, decides whether, there should be a hi-hat in the track or not, or what kind of snare. Those are our ingredients. Right now for me is a very big time of experimentation. I've been in the studio the last 2 months and just experimenting with different ideas that I never had a chance to explore, really trying to take myself outside my comfort zone, outside my box, not using the same hardware or software, seeking out new technology, seeking out new ways of putting music together, seeking out new methods of you know, not only live performance, but you know, performing as a DJ. You know, I'm constantly, especially now, as I face the next decade, I'm really not struggling, but reaching deep down inside to try to find this new path that I know exists.